Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love to another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast. On today's episode, we got to talk about all of this Jeanty love because it seems that Ashton Jeanty has a lot of love for the Chicago Bears. A surprise rift appearing in the relationship of Caleb and Shane Waldron. The inside details on that, and then the Rookie of the Year voting was not kind to Caleb Williams. So we got to break all that down and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Oh, so much running back talk, Bears fans. So much running back talk. And listen, dog, like, you got to understand that Ashton Jeanty is a phenomenal player, that I think that he's a phenomenal player. And when he speaks, people are going to lose their mind just a little bit. But we got a chance to hear from Ashton Jeanty the other day, I believe on Radio Row, going on a few different shows. And it was brought up to him that, where are you eyeballing? Who's got your eye? What team out there are you really looking into with the possibility of them drafting you? And he brought up that 10th overall pick, basically saying, listen, I like what the Chicago Bears are doing over there. I'm eyeballing kind of where they're at 10 as a possibility for where he could be drafted. And now all of a sudden it's Ashton Jeanty to the Bears. Ashton Jeanty's a Bear. Here we go. Bring on the Jeanty. Everybody wants Jeanty. Listen, I can understand that Ashton Jeanty's a phenomenal talent. I believe that he has some of the best balance in this draft. I think he plays the game really well, especially rushing to the outside. When you put him in power, you know what he can do, and he's rushing against 9 men in the box every time. I don't care if you're at Boise State. I don't care if you're in a smaller conference. I don't care if it's not the SEC. 9 in the box is 9 in the box. That's a lot of dudes trying to tackle you there. And you have to give him credit for the season that he was able to have this year. I mean, just absolutely balled out in every aspect of the word. He deserves to be one of those first-round picks. But if you are the Chicago Bears, for me, you have to look at his 2,600-yard, 29-touchdown season and say, while that is great, that's not where we're at. This is not the Detroit Lions drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. This is not, you just go get a game-changing running back to say that you have one. There's an opportunity right now, and Yurko brought this up yesterday on the show, to not only fix your offensive line, but have your offensive line be very cohesive for years to come. How can you miss that opportunity for, listen, a great running back in Ashton Jeanty? I can acknowledge that he's great. Can you acknowledge that it would be great to have an offensive line that has 5 guys on it that actually all have played with each other for years? I think when you look at the opportunity of going out and getting Trey Smith, you look at the opportunity of the possibility of signing Drew Dahlman, you look at the opportunity of having that 10th overall pick and possibly drafting either a left guard or left tackle, depending on what those guys end up playing out as in the NFL, right? Like, you're talking about the interior of your offensive line being set. Also, you're pairing up the Trey Smith with Darnell Wright, who you already have. They have a relationship from college. They have years of cohesion together already. So now you're working all of that in at once. How can you pass on that opportunity? And the mindset of, but you can go out and you can get an offensive lineman every single year. You can sign a guy. Right? Maybe you want to. Here's my only way that I even feel better about you drafting a running back. If the Bears go out and they just say, we're not spending any money defensively, we're drafting edge rushers. Offensively is where we're spending every bit of cap space the rest of this season. We're going to sign Trey Smith. We're going to sign Drew Dahlman. We're going to go out and we're going to overpay for Ronnie Stanley. I keep wanting to go Brandon Staley on that. Ronnie Stanley. We're going to spend money and go out and buy us an offensive line. Then I can see you, then I can look at it and go, okay, you want to know what? I don't like it, but I can live with the fact that you drafted a running back at 10. But even in that situation, you still don't have an edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat. Why not now at 10 go get the best edge rusher there is in the draft? That's where my mind is going to flip to. This is a running back deep draft. You've got running backs all over the place. Yes, Ashton Jeanty is the best of the bunch, but there's so much more that you need in the trenches. How can you even think to look running back? And listen, I don't think that Ben Johnson is. But if we came out of this draft with the 10th overall pick being Ashton Jeanty, I would have serious concerns on who's doing some of the evaluating up there. I would have serious concerns on where the belief is, where your team really is. Because if you do that, you better come out and have Austin Booker developed to start the season, Dennis Allen. You better have Braxton Jones playing completely different on the other side, Dan Rashard. That's why, to me, you've still got to develop these guys in the draft, right? It's not to say that you don't, but go get the best guys in the trenches, invest fully in the trenches. And guess what? I guarantee you guys will find running backs every other year. And eventually there will come a running back who's going to be that next big name guy who will be available. You want to know how I know this? Because there's one every single year. There's some great running back in the draft every single year that you can take in the first round or you can take in the second round, and he turns into something. You know, when his life is made easier and when he actually plays out to being that person in the NFL, when there's a group of just mammoths in front of them that are people movers. I want the Philadelphia Eagles situation. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles situation with a quarterback that maybe ends up being a Pat Mahomes type quarterback, and I'm sitting here a happy camper. That's the best scenario for the Bears, no matter what. And so for me, Ashton Jeanty is not even it's a non-starter conversation for me. Realistically speaking, in the long run of all of this, I don't expect the Bears to go running back in the first round. I do expect them to address the trenches because I think you have a lot of smart people in the building now. I think when you bring in Ben Johnson, when you bring in Dennis Allen, when you bring in a Dan Rashard, when you bring in Antoine Randall, when you bring in Al Harris, all of these names that we've talked about all offseason, I think there's a lot of things that you want, but they realize you're not in a situation like you were previously. So there's still a lot of things that you need. And I know people have lost their mind over the last couple of weeks because Saquon Barkley said I was very close to signing in Chicago, and everybody's, oh my God, we could have had Saquon. Saquon behind this line would have been very similar to Saquon behind that Giants offensive line, which outside of that first year, kind of the averages kind of play out to where you look at it and go, oh, this was an underwhelming. Your time here was underwhelming outside of maybe the first year and a half. And it's not because Saquon isn't great. It's not because Saquon isn't a phenomenal running back. It's because he had to deal with injury because he was always fighting through the offensive line, trying to get to the next level, trying to get to the point where he could break a touchdown long. He's dealing with guys diving at his ankles. They know he's the only option, so they're stacking the box yet again, right? Like, I just, for me, why would you want to put a running back in that situation? Any running back. And I said, this is an and season. But running back is not a part of the and for me. You're either addressing offensive line and defensive line, or you're failing. That's your or. That's your or in all of this. Hey, man, let me know how you guys feel in the comments below, man. What are your thoughts on Ashton Jeanty wanting to be a part of the Chicago Bears team? Do you think the Chicago Bears want him to be here? That's the big question. It's not about what I feel. It's not about what you feel. It's about what do the Chicago Bears feel in all of this, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Do want to take a moment here as we before we transition into this next segment, because we had already recorded yesterday's episode, so didn't get an opportunity to do this on the episode yesterday, but I want to offer my deepest condolences to the McCaskey family on the loss of the matriarch, Virginia McCaskey. I mean, just the sweetest person. I had one opportunity in my time doing this to meet her. And I was not expecting it to be a meeting. It was I want to say it was last season, or season before last, I should say. My brain is still not calculating that this season's over. Season before last, training camp. I want to say it was an alumni day And they were wheeling her kind of through Hallis, which how they move through Hallis is hilarious to me because it literally is like, this is our house. And I was like, this is the only opportunity I saw her. And I was like, this is the only opportunity I'm ever going to get a chance to say anything to her. I said, hello, Miss McCaskey. How are you? It's good to see you. I hope you have a great day. And she stopped and said, hi, how are you? What's your name? I'm talking about a minute and a half, 2-minute interaction, but just the sweetest lady ever. I wasn't expecting to be having a conversation with her in the slightest. And it was so quick, but it was something that it sticks with you. It really tells you to people up there. Like when you talk about, when you take the business out of all of this, of course, we look at the McCaskeys on the business side of it, the Chicago Bears side of it, the sports side of it, right? When you take the business out of it, though, they really are good people. You know, when we get an opportunity at the Chicago Bears draft parties to speak with George, and he comes down, he's just like, "What'd you think of that?" And I'm sitting here having a conversation with George McCaskey last year. He came down and he wanted to have a beer. And the ladies that are working there, they're probably not watching football. They don't know who George McCaskey is. He asked the lady for a beer. She says the bar is closed. He walks away. You know, he's like, okay, don't worry about it. We go back up. We're like, he's the owner of the team. Go get him a couple of. Can we have a couple of beers for him? She's like, oh God, no, please. But they're humble people up there. And so just the small meetings, the small interactions that you get to have with them, that really, screams through every single time. So you will be missed. The mother of the Chicago Bears, Virginia McCaskey, the matriarch of the team, rest in peace. And let's hope that we could turn this thing around for you. It's pretty cool that the last game that she got to see on the day that my son was born, her birthday as well, was the Chicago Bears beating the Green Bay Packers. I thought that was pretty awesome yesterday when somebody had pointed that out. So prayers up to the McCaskey family. A lot of love to you guys, and let's get to winning ways for Miss McCaskey. Let's keep this thing moving along, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. I don't know what to do. Something else that I thought was very interesting that came out, and this came out a little bit more recently. This came out, I believe, yesterday on the Second City podcast. More details have arrived on how bad things really were in the building last year. And I think this plays into the conversation around Caleb Williams and his Rookie of the Year bid, right? Because I don't know if you guys saw the voting on the Rookie of the Year, but sheesh. I mean, absolutely horrible numbers for Caleb Williams. I believe only 2 votes for him. Both of them were second place votes. Only got 2 points. I'm sorry, not second place, 5th place votes. He was basically at the bottom of the Rookie of the Year voting. And, it's not what you expected to see out of Caleb Williams in his rookie season, but details did emerge. And this was from Taylor Dahl, who, and just so you know, this is not like a Joe Schmo out here. She hosts Making Monsters by Second City, Gridiron. And she also is down in Jacksonville. She works for the flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars, hosting on 1010 XL 92.5 FM down there, the Northeast Florida sports leader, the flagship of the Jacksonville Jaguars. These guys are home of the Florida Gators as well. So this is a major network. She talked about some of the details that have come out about the relationship between Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams, in the brief relationship that it was, and how reportedly before Waldron was fired, Caleb Williams had to seek outside resources to review film because Waldron was not doing it with him. He went as far as even creating his own film study room to make up for the lack of coaching that he was getting from Shane Waldron. And, if I had just heard this and it was my first time hearing it and you're like, okay, it is what it is, everybody reports something, and maybe it did look like that, maybe it didn't. You probably brush all of this off. But then my mind went to an interview that Keenan Allen did. I want to say it was on Recap with David Kaplan. My mind went to an interview that Keenan Allen did, and Keenan Allen talked about, the biggest difference after they had fired Shane Waldron and hired Thomas Brown, and I think they had played a game at that point. And he talked about the biggest difference in Caleb Williams' game from one to the other. He talked about how, it looks like Caleb is throwing the football more confidently, and how it looks like he's getting the ball out quicker and he knows where to go. And Keenan Allen talked about, he thinks the biggest difference that Caleb Williams had was that he knew where he needed his eyes to be. He knew who was 1, who was 2, who was 3, who was 4, and when to go to him. And I remember hearing that and just thinking, isn't that the basics of what an offensive coordinator is supposed to teach you in an offense? Isn't that the bottom level of what an offensive coordinator is supposed to teach you in an offense? That's the beginning. We're running a play. This is the progression on the play. Of course, you got to learn, like, okay, how to call the play, how to set everybody up, how to line everybody up. But it reminded me so much of that interview when I heard this, because it truly seemed like Caleb didn't know where his eyes were supposed to go. It truly seemed like Caleb didn't know when the football was supposed to come out on certain times. Some of those deep passes where the miscommunication between him and DJ Moore constantly all season, it truly seemed like there was just something missing that was so important, that was the linchpin to tying all of this together. And if your offensive coordinator is not watching the film with you and teaching you the things that you're doing wrong, that could explain a lot of what we saw. In fact, to me, it is pretty telling on what we saw. It seemed like Caleb Williams was looking in the wrong places, was reading the play wrong, thinking guys were going one direction when they were going another, right? Like all of those things that your OC is supposedly supposed to teach you and coach out of you. And it's like Mike Tomlin said, so many of these guys run from the coaching. Shane Waldron being the first ever coach fired in season by the Chicago Bears, you would think that it would take something egregious for him to get there outside of just bad play calling, because we've seen a ton of bad play calling in this city. This to me screams out, that'll get you fired in the middle of the season. I was stunned when I heard this, and it changed not changed, because I thought Caleb had a season where he had a lot to deal with as a rookie. But it changed my perception of what the Rook really went through. It changed my perception of what the young man really had to deal with. It changed my perception of, okay, it's not just you dealing with the defense. It's you dealing with trying to figure out the defense on your own, and you're still having a solid season. And then all of a sudden Thomas Brown comes in, and Thomas Brown goes, hey, maybe throw to this guy, and this guy on this play. And this is kind of where you need your eyes to look. And all of a sudden Caleb Williams starts to look better. Wait a minute. That to me is very, very telling. And when I saw the Rookie of the Year voting yesterday, listen, at the end of the day, you knew Caleb wasn't going to win it. Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal rookie season. That's all that you can say. Jaden Daniels balled out this year at every step of the way. Got the team to the playoffs. Now, these things are done during the season. It's not done in the postseason, but just to continue the rookie season, gets to the NFC title game, like all of these things where you go, he's absolutely the offensive rookie of the year. There's no question about it. And seeing kind of how far down the list Caleb Williams was. I mean, I guess seeing how far down the list he was a little bit shocking, but listen, there was so many ups and downs. There were so many ups and downs. I would say when you're talking about rookie seasons, there's some names I am surprised that are above him, right? I'm surprised that Drake May is above him. I'm surprised that Joe Alt is above him. That's kind of it, though. Ladd McConkey makes sense to me. Bo Nix makes sense to me. Brian Thomas balled this season. He makes sense to me. Bucky Irving makes sense to me. Jaden Daniels winning it makes sense to me. Brock Bowers is number 1. Or is number 2, I should say. Caleb's rookie season was, while it was a good season for a rookie quarterback, it's not what we expected. Let's not pretend that it was. It was a disappointment. Now, was it a disappointment for other reasons outside of Caleb's control? Seems like it. Matt Eberflus, I mean, Caleb leads you back on a couple of drives. Couple of those really win the game there for you. We don't need that. We feel good about the decision we made there. Okay. Couple timeouts there. Couple timeouts changed this entire game. Changed this entire season. Couple timeouts. Just a boom right there. Matt Eberflus didn't want to make that move. I think that holds you back. Seems like Shane Waldron, being the offensive coordinator that was selected, really held you back, which is more of an indictment on Ryan Poles than anything. I have to give massive credit to Kevin Warren here for stepping in and being the adult in the room when things got to a point where it was just, there's no way that we can keep going this way. We have to make changes here. I'm glad that somebody did. I'm glad that somebody decided, hey, we got to make a change here. This can't keep going on this way. We have to update how we do things. Now it seems like you have this coaching staff in the building that's phenomenal. Now it seems like you have this coaching staff in the building that is going to be great at development. Now it seems like you have this coaching staff in the building that's going to be great at talent evaluation, because we've seen these guys do this in other places all across the NFL. Still yet to be seen. Got to see it not on paper, but actually take place on the grass. But I'm excited about the coaching staff that you have currently built. But you completely wasted Caleb Williams' rookie year by putting him through so many of these dumb situations. And no, I don't believe that this would have been, Ben Johnson deciding to go back through everything off. I believe the Bears would have stuck with Matt Eberflus no matter what. I think you got a break that Ben Johnson decided to go back, because it gave you an opportunity to sign him this offseason. It was bad, man. There was a lot of bad last season. The hope is that you can fix it this season. The hope is that we're looking at Ryan Poles in a different light by the end of this season, and that he is back in the good graces of everybody in Chicagoland when they were calling him King Poles. But hey, we'll see what ends up happening with this whole thing, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all have a great weekend. Super Bowl coming here. Let me get my Super Bowl prediction before I get up out of here, man. Super Bowl prediction. Y'all know what it is, dog. Come on. That boy, my homie. That's Goat Mahomes over there. Bah. That's Goat Mahomes over there. 3P coming your way. That's a bad man. That's a dangerous man. And you want to know what? We can talk about the defense. We can talk about Chris Jones. We can talk, although the Philly defense dealing with a little bit of sickness in that locker room. You got to be careful on that. Guys may be playing a little bit under the weather, which would absolutely suck. But you're talking about that Philly defense. You're talking about that Philly team over there, man. They got some dogs over there. Saquon Barkley looks like an absolute monster. That offensive line looks absolutely dangerous, all until Chris Jones is coming through, bringing down the man in the backfield, Jalen Hurts. I love it. I love this matchup. I think that this is going to be a hard-fought game. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw last season, where it does come down to the wire. And at the end of the day, I think that man, Goat Mahomes, is going to go out there and have him an absolute field day. When it matters most, let me show you what I can do. And him and Travis Kelce are going to hook up for 2 touchdowns together. I think D-Hop gets him a Super Bowl touchdown. And let me get a rushing touchdown from, I don't know, picking that. You know what? I'll give you a rush touchdown. Let me get a rushing touchdown on a little end-around action. Xavier Worthy. 28-24 Super Bowl. Chiefs win. The 3-peat is here. The GOAT legacy is cemented. And that man, Pat Mahomes, goes down as one of the baddest men to ever touch a football. Hey, man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Well, it's just me. I don't know why I was about to shout somebody out on the show. For Pat the Designer, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.